Oh, g'day scrappers. Today I'm scrapping out a mini PC. It's the Asus Nova P20. Here in Australia, I believe they originally sold for about $1,000. So pretty much just as much as a regular PC. They're only, quite small, not much taller than a can of soft drink. And basically they sit up like that. You can sort of have them flat or up, sitting upwards. But yeah, thought I'd scrap it out and just see what's inside them. So you got your everything that you would expect. You got your USB type ports. You got the monitor port, your Ethernet port, headphones and all that sort of stuff. So it's yeah, I suppose everything that would be in a computer, a normal sized computer. So I guess this is what they call a small form factor, extreme, very tiny. So it'd be interesting to see just how big the motherboard is and the hard drive and stuff like that. I've never scrapped one of these kind of ones before, so might as well make a start and just have a look out of interest's sake. I've scrapped many a PC and stuff and servers and think clients or thin clients, but yeah, never one of these little mini PCs. And so it'll be interesting. Looks like there's only 4 screws, and obviously I tried to get this working, but I couldn't get it booting up. So might as well see what's inside and scrap it out if I can work out how to actually do it. Yeah, bit weird. Doesn't really. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, there we go. Pretty straightforward, actually. That's the top cover and the shield. Got a little board in there just for the on-off kind of button. Nothing in there. Alright, so we got the DVD drive here. I guess we'll have to take that out first. But yeah, as I've said in a few previous videos, it's hard to find new and interesting stuff to scrap because everything's all pretty much the same kind of thing. So it's good to get these little unusual bits, and so it's just pretty amazing that a PC can sit in that and can still do the job of a regular PC. Amazing. And they're even getting smaller now. You've got a slightly smaller versions. You've even got the Apple app, the Mac Mini. So they'll be interesting once they start getting thrown out and scrappable. But yeah, just working out how to get everything undone is going to be a bit of a challenge. Just trying to find where all the screws are and whatnot. Got one. Okay, we've actually got the DVD and the little hard drive at the base of it. got a little board with a little bit of fingers on there too. Really cool. I'll just put that aside for now. And if I can get the right screwdriver. All right. It's just a little ports for both the hard drive and the DVD. Got some nice little MLCCs on there and tiny little fingers. It's actually that real shiny kind of gold plating. So that sort of lets us know that it's, you know, it's not very heavy gold plating like others. Obviously, because it's not the sort of thing that gets constantly removed, but still, that's a little piece. And the hard drive, I'd imagine the hard drive would be about 160 gig. I mean, this little mini PC is certainly not the latest. So I believe there's also a Nova P22, so that might be the upgraded version. And then Asus also make a lot more other brands or models. And so I think Asus make pretty good mini PCs. Yep, so it's a 160 gigabyte regular laptop kind of hard drive. So yeah, because the system wouldn't boot up, I'd imagine it would have been the hard drive probably corrupt, but you know, it could also be a hardware problem. So there we go. Wow, that's the motherboard. The Asus P2 PS81. Really cool. It's actually, for a tiny motherboard and tiny little unit, they still did put a very big heatsink on it. So that's quite interesting. Take off this little board here. So I'd imagine, I don't know who would sort of like, what kind of businesses would have this. I know that this one was used just for Bluetooth television display. So, you know, I haven't heard of schools or anything like that, or businesses using these in large quantities. So I'm not sure if we're going to actually find, you know, get big batches of these at a time, but if we did, so far it looks like a very simple scrap. So certainly something that, you know, if you come across a whole pallet load of these, you'd be able to whip through these, scrap them out really, really quickly, and probably do okay out of them. So I guess the next thing would be to remove this large heatsink. If I can get my proper screwdriver. Okay. just take out whatever wants to come out first, I suppose. Okay. Well, you can see the impressions of the 3 fans. So it's got 3 little fans, which is quite impressive actually. You know, I suppose being such a little unit, it's still a PC, it still works like one, so it's going to need as much cooling as possible, but 3 fans is pretty neat. Quite a nice little design of the heatsink here, and we've got a very thick plate of copper, and yeah. And I've mentioned before, like these copper pipes, they've got something else aside from copper. They're kind of like a shiny, you know, I'm thinking maybe like a Cooper nickel, where it's 10% nickel and a 90% copper, because they're a different thing. And when you melt these down and make ingots, it's a shinier copper. It's not like regular red copper. And yeah, so I find that these are sort of okay usually to melt, but these pipes are a little bit different. So I prefer to just sell this as scrap copper and get the money for it rather than melting it. But there you go. But yeah, very, very heavy little thing. And it would have been a lot of the weight of this actual unit. You know, I mean, this part here weighs probably half of what the rest of it weighs. Don't know if this one wants to come out. Probably just stuck on clips underneath or something. I might wait till I get the actual motherboard off. But there we go. That's the motherboard. And yeah, it's almost the complete size, aside from just enough space for the fans to sit here. They've basically built the motherboard and then built the casing around it. And really squished it right up against it to make it as small as possible. Obviously this motherboard is the smallest that they could make. Got the CPU socket here, so unlike a laptop where it will be mostly a board mounted CPU, so this is just your standard regular kind of CPU. And it's actually, you know, it's all come apart pretty easily and quite good in, you know, there's, unlike a motherboard where it's a laptop where it's easy to damage stuff as you're pulling it apart and opening it up if you want to do repairs, where this one, you know, you slide that back in and you know, you can replace the CPU or whatever you need to do, and it seems like a very easy thing to do. Now we just got a standard Pentium 4. Even when I stockpile my CPUs, before I do, I prefer to clean the grey heatsink stuff. That way, when I'm handling it, even in stockpiling, you know, I haven't got all this grey stuff all over myself, you know. I prefer to get rid of it right away. I'll just have a look. So it's a dual core SLA8Z. Yeah, so quite a common CPU. I don't kind of bother with selling these anymore because no one buys them. Alright, I'll just get out the motherboard. Yeah, so as I was saying, if you got a whole heap of these and you were just going hard in scrap mode, it would probably take 3 minutes to scrap one of these out. So you know, you're certainly not going to lose much time. I'll just come out really quickly. Like, usually when I'm scrapping something unusual for the first time, I'm usually fiddling around looking for screws, and you know, but it seems like Asus has really made this you know, user-friendly. So these are the little clips that were making it hard to get this part on. Yeah, interesting. So I'm assuming, I'm not really sure where the RAM was. Yeah, because so far all we've gotten is these two boards here. And so I don't know where the RAM is on this. And it's certainly not on here. So that's interesting. I just want to get this heatsink off here. Might need 2 hands for that. Nice little heatsink again with one of these Cooper nickel kind of pipes that just exposed a silicon chip, silicon BGA. So scrap value, it's doesn't have much value there. The only decent chip on here is this flat little BGA chip here, and it's very small. So yeah, other side, oh okay. Well, we found the RAM. I was starting to worry. I was saying, well, they're tricking me here. There's no RAM in this thing, but they put it underneath, and actually there's a little bit of stuff underneath here too. So not bad. It's actually a 2 gig of RAM. So I can sell this 2 gig RAM pretty easily. You know, a lot of the times it's got the eight BGA chips on each side, so it's actually a good value one as far as gold recovery as well. But yeah, first see, when they're 2 gigabyte and above, 2 gigabytes are still worth selling here in Australia. You know, some countries it's still worth selling 1 gigabyte hard drives, you know, but not so much here. Okay, let me just have a little closer look. All right. So these are all tantalum capacitors here. Have another look. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're tantalum capacitors. And these orange style tantalum capacitors, you see a lot of the orange ones on laptop motherboards. So I'm not sure the reason why they use orange, why there is orange tantalum capacitors. It must be just something for use in very small compact things, because that's the only place I really see them, is only in laptops and very small motherboards. It's a nice big MLCC here. You know, so mostly tantalum capacitors. Looks like there's a BGA under here, but it looks like it's only a silicon chip BGA. Oh no, I make a lie. So we do have one nice BGA here with the gold corner chip. So that's our class 2. Yeah, quite a good one, that one. And if you were to sell motherboards just to a board buyer like Board Sword or something like that. As you can see, there's your motherboard, and they're going to look at it like that and say, yep, that's a motherboard, fair enough, and away you go. So they're not going to notice if you take off this BGA chip. You know, if it was on this side, yeah, if you took off this chip, and there's no reason why you want to take this chip off because it's only a silicon chip. If you took off that and you went to sell this to a board buyer, they're going to say, oh, hang on, it's been partially depopulated. You remove the main chip off it, you know, and so you're going to get downgraded because almost then it's almost not a motherboard, you know. It's got to have the real deal on it. But in this case, because it's double-sided, and motherboards aren't generally double-sided, you know, laptops are, and even with laptops, you can, in stuff like this, I try and depopulate completely. But in this case, you might just take off this BGA chip and still sell it as a motherboard. I might take off that and maybe these two tantalum capacitors. I'll leave this and the rest on, you know, to not lose any value. And I'll certainly leave everything else here. The only thing I'll take off is this, what are they, network card or something like that, whatever they are. I generally take these off because, well, they're like a slot card. They've got gold fingers. So even though the gold fingers are very small, I still like to take my gold fingers off here. And under here, there'll be a little BGA chip or something. So you don't lose much if you just completely depopulate these boards. In this case, it's just a flat pack. It's got pins on it all sides. But we do have a nice little crystal oscillator with the gold band. That's pretty common. They're only tiny, but, you know, it doesn't make any difference. You put them to your stack. Some MLCCs. So, you know, it's quite a high quality little board, but the only thing is it's just so small and it's so light. You know, you put this in with peripheral boards, you're not going to get any value out of it. So you might as well just take off the gold fingers here. You know, you can even snip off these corners with the gold plating exposed. And that's for, you know, a quick gold recovery stuff. You know, some people say to scratch off this and look for the gold plating underneath. Well, yeah, it's gold flashed. It's ENIG. It's not heavy gold plating. So I scratch here. It's pretty much just going to be copper. Okay, so yeah, so I can just see, I don't know if you're going to, but yeah, you know, I can see the gold plating underneath there, and it's very, you know, it's just ENIG. So I'm not sure it's worth trying to strip all this green paint off just to get to that ENIG, because it's not going to give you very good gold recovery. But it's up to you. Some people like to go all the way and try and scratch all their green boards and look for that gold plating underneath. But, you know, it's a lot of work compared to what you're going to actually get out of it, you know. Whereas, you know, gold fingers like that, nice and easy to snip off. So that's all I do. That's it. I just snip off my gold fingers, put this into the gold finger bucket, just like that. Then I take out my little crystal oscillator. Only tiny. It's got a ceramic underneath. Right, so I put that in with crystal oscillators. Now it's up to you what to do. Again, you can snip off these corners because it's the gold plating is easily accessible. You can pick off a couple of, you know, the little MLCCs in here, put them, you know, put them in with your MLCCs, and you can still throw this in with peripheral boards and you still get away with it. Yeah, otherwise just take off the couple of little chips and then just, you you know, it's up to you. Throw the board into scrap metal. But yeah, like I said, scraping off with all this green paint is going to expose, you know, in some cases it will expose gold plating, but it's only ENIG. So it's not, you know, you probably end up spending almost as much in chemicals to get it than you'll actually get out of it. So that's up to you. I'm not, you know, really trying to tell anyone what to do as far as, you know, their style of gold recovery. I'm a stockpiler. I'm not recovering my own gold at the moment. So I just do what I prefer to do. But so here we've got, it's like a brass plated base plate here. Well, it's non-magnetic, so I'd imagine it's brass. Probably take a bit. Could be almost like paint. But, you know, it almost looks like it's gold or a gold-plated brass or something, but I doubt that very much. Yeah. So I'll just take out a little bit. Okay. So yeah, it's basically just a brassy, just brass, but still brass is worth a bit. So we keep that, take all that. It's going to be a bit of work to get all that out. But that's that, and that's the motherboard. So yeah, so there's a couple of things okay on it, but you know, like I've mentioned before with motherboards, I don't bother depopulating motherboards because there's just not enough value on there. See, there's no value there. This is all steel, so you depopulate this, you're not going to get really much value. You know, sure, we've got a couple of little chips here. You know, the best chip on the board is actually this one here because it's a class 1 BGA. But the rest is, you know, really not much for precious metal recovery. And the other side, okay, this chip's good. This is okay, but, you know, if you start removing too many chips, you're going to lose your value. And we've got some, you know, just basic tantalum capacitors. So all I'm inclined to do here is just take off this one chip. That's all I really want. I don't have a hammer on me right now, but there we go. So it's a BGA. It's still got this rubbish on the outside and all that. Obviously the main thing we want is this chip, but we just keep these as class 2. They're about the highest grade BGAs. So that's class 1. It's got no plastic rubbish on it, and that's class 2. And these two are the best, the high value BGAs. BGAs like that, forget about them. So underneath there, you know, we do have some gold plating inside there, some very, very fine bonding wires. It's not like CPU kind of bonding wires, but and I can see probably a bit of silver there, but it's also the bonding wires inside this actual chip is what you really want. And so now that I've removed it off the plastic, this now becomes a class 1. And, you know, there's $10 a difference per kilo that I pay anyway. But still there, you got gold recovery here too. So it doesn't really make much difference if you keep them together because, you know, you're getting paid more for the plastic anyway. But that's that. And so now I've removed the BGA, and sure, you can tell, but it's not really noticeable because you're not really looking closely. If it was on the front, that would be different. Then I would leave it on. But yeah, probably the only other thing I would take is the little crystal Don't know why, I just like to keep them. You know, obviously they're only for silver recovery and you need a lot to get your silver out of them. But, you know, I stockpile them, and one day, only if silver goes to the moon, that's the time when we're going to be recovering silver. But yeah, I don't really see much else there. All right, so that's the Asus Nova P20 mini PC. We've got our motherboard. We've got our little ports board. That little board that I partially depopulated. The board for the hard drive and DVD. You know, this little board here, these actually can sell. You might get a couple of bucks for them, you know. But for me, I'd rather just take the few MLCCs, take me thing, and I'll just throw that into mid-grade board. We got our nice little 160 gig hard drive that I don't believe works. We've got the 2 gigabyte RAM module, which should work and should be able to sell this quite easily. You know, just depending on the model, you know, if we can get $8 for it, it's worth selling. Otherwise, you know, you can always use it for upgrading another laptop or something like that. Just a useless DVD drive, not going to bother with that. And got the, you know, really heavy chunky piece of copper here. Very surprising. A lot bigger than you would get out of a laptop. Just a lot heavier, you know. And so yeah, so all I'll do is I'll just remove this main plate and just throw this rest in with copper aluminium radiator. And that's it. So there you go, guys. That was the Nova P20 mini PC. Quite an interesting little unit. And, you know, as I said, it was very easy to scrap out and really quick. If I wasn't showing this on a video, you know, I'd have this done in 2 or 3 minutes and, you know, be able to move on to the next. So it was quite a nice little scrap, easy scrap. And we did get some reasonable value out of it, you know. You know, this is probably the best thing because I can, you know, get a few dollars for that. And, you know, a couple bucks, you know, worth of copper. And, yeah, and just a little motherboard isn't really worth a great deal. But, you know, the main thing is I got my little, I got the best chip on the board just about. So, I don't need to depopulate this any further. I can just sell this as it is and get maximum value, you know, so I get motherboard price for steel, the whole lot. All right, and also we're going to have a bit of brass, and if I want to spend a bit more time, get the brass out of there, a little bit of wiring, and also got this triple fan set up here. I'll see how easy it is to get out. If I can get this out, I might even keep this because it's a nice little compact little fan system. But there you go. All right, guys, well, hope that was a bit of fun for you. Something a little different, mini PC, very tiny PC, motherboard, about as tall as a can of soft drink. So, very small, but we get what, well, we accept whatever we get, and so I was pretty happy with this anyway. All right, guys, keep scrapping, and I'll catch you next time.